Now, it's 30 years this week that mountain gorilla researcher DIAN FOSSEY was murdered in Rwanda. Her story was remembered in the Hollywood movie Gorillas in the Mist, which was nominated for 5 Oscars. The American researcher is credited with highlighting the plight of critically endangered apes. Her enthusiasm to save these primates pushed the government to get behind their conservation. Well, let's speak to Praveen Moman. He is the founder of the eco-tourism organisation Volcano Safari that operates out of Rwanda and Uganda. Welcome to the programme. How important was the work that DIAN FOSSEY carried out in Rwanda?
Thank you very much, Asha. It's a pleasure to be with you today. Although it's a sad event, isn't it, to mark the 30th anniversary of DIAN FOSSEY's death. I think her work was seminal. It put on the map the forgotten apes in these faraway forests on the borders of Rwanda, Uganda, and the DRC. And why was it seminal? I think without her highlighting the plight of these gorillas, which, as you know, are very closely related to human beings. We share about 98% of our DNA with them. It's very questionable whether they would have survived. In 1960, there were under 500 gorillas. By 1980, around the time she was murdered, there were about 250. Today, mercifully, there are about 900. So the overall trend is good. It's strong. The population is stable. But any small disease from man, habitat loss, any disturbance could wipe them out.
Now, apart from those two points that you've mentioned, habitat loss and disease, of course, the range of the gorillas is also faces other threats as well. What are those dangers?
Well, I think what became clear in her time from the 60s when she started working there, and that's when I first visited this area as a child, who grew up in Uganda and stayed in the forest where she was working. What became very clear then was exactly these 3 things. That the first is that you need to connect to communities. The communities have no intrinsic value from the gorilla itself. They have value from land. They need land where they can farm, obviously, or keep cattle. So she encountered very quickly the pressure from farmers and poachers. And she dealt with it in a rather strong way, which made her a lot of enemies in the area. But that has remained the critical issue. How do you make sure that communities benefit from gorillas? Secondly, as you've just said, habitat loss, which is of course related to man's use of this area, is also a big issue. Whether from farming, or in the case of the DRC, there's oil. There's oil that's been discovered within the boundaries of Parc National de Virunga on the Congolese side, which is a World Heritage Site. And the Congolese government and the park authorities there are working out how to deal with this issue, because oil, of course, is very valuable, and there's big pressure to cut down the forest and let the oil companies have it. And the third issue always has been, how do you make money from gorillas? Because if you can do that, then of course communities get benefit. They don't need to cut down the forest. They don't need to create farmland. And that's of course what sensitive tourism does. And I stress sensitive tourism because it started in the time of DIAN FOSSEY. If you have too much tourism, the gorillas will die from human disease given by man. If you don't have tourism, I believe, they will also die because there will not be an interest in this area and the pressure on the habitat from the communities around will be too big.
Okay.
So as a tourism organization, and that's what I think it's a very delicate balance between these 3 issues.
Praveen Moman, thank you very much for your time. Good to speak to you.